Welcome to Securing Asian Episode 3. My name is Ian Lim, and I'm the Regional Field Chief Security Officer for Palo Alto Networks here. Today, we're going to talk about how we're automating security for tomorrow. The pandemic showed us that digitalization is such a key component of not only our work life, but our personal lives. You know, all of us had to go back to our homes, companies, retailers, all had to lean in on their digital presence to do their business and to continue to contribute to the economy. And what we've seen is that many companies have made very strong investments in going into the cloud, investing in smart devices, maybe even really venturing into 5G technology. And this digital transformation that we're all experiencing is changing the way that we live. Now, we're not the only ones evolving. The attackers have evolved as well. As we come out of this pandemic, we've seen a rise in targeted ransomware attacks. And most recently, supply chain attack that is very, very concerning, attacks against critical infrastructure. So there's an evolution. The attackers realize that this digitalization is is giving them a much wider attack surface, and they're exploiting it. So the question that we're trying to answer today in this episode is, do we, from a security practitioner perspective, need to change the way that we're doing our security operations center, our SOC, right? And we have two very esteemed customer panel with us today. We've got Pak Damadi, who is the CIO of Toyota Astra Motor in Indonesia, and he leads the technology strategy for the company. And also with us today, we have Kun Titirat, who is the group CISO and Chief Data Officer for True Corporation out of Thailand. And I'll have both of our fine panelists here introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about their business and their role in it. Pak Damadi, why don't we start with you?
Okay, thank you, Ian. Hi, everyone. So I'm, like Ian mentioned, I'm a CIO of Toyota Astra Motor. Toyota Astra Motor is a distributor of Toyota vehicle in Indonesia. We are a market leader with around 30% of market share in Indonesia. So in Indonesia, yeah, as you know, that we are a developing country. Yeah, so the vehicle market actually is very increased at this moment. Yeah, so in Toyota, I help Toyota Astra Motor, especially how we can utilize the advanced technology to improve our business. Yeah, I have around 26 years experience in IT. Yeah, I start from the engineer until my role now as a CIO, and mostly all my years actually in automotive industry. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Damadi. Really welcome, and we know you have a busy schedule, so we appreciate it. And now let's turn over to Kun Titirat. Can you give us a little bit about your company and your role in it?
Hello, everybody. My name is Titirat. My role is Group Chief Information Security Officer and Chief Data Officer of True. True is a telecommunications and also digital business provider. We also provide end-to-end cybersecurity services to the client. We just awarded ISO 27001 of our cybersecurity service offering to the clients.
Thank you so much. I know you have a busy schedule as well. Again, much appreciated. Also with us today, we have David Raju, who is our Regional System Engineering Head. And he has a lot of experience helping different customers across the region with implementing their SOC. David, a quick intro from you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Ian. And thank you, Kun Titirat, and thank you, Pak Damadi, for taking the time. My name is David. I'm the ASEAN Systems Engineering Head for Cortex. And I lead the team where we work together with businesses, to think about, as they go through their own digital transformation, how do we actually think about securing those kind of transformations, right? With a lot of organizations moving to cloud, attack surfaces are increasing, sophisticated attacks. What are some of the newer technologies that we work with organizations to really implement that into their businesses to secure the businesses?
Thank you so much, David. Thank you. And again, let's go ahead and get started. So my first question is for Pak Damadi. In your opinion, what is the most important outcome of the SOC?
Okay, thank you, Ian. Yeah. So let me share our experience first. Yeah. So Toyota Astra Motor, we already using the SOC since 4 to 5 years ago. Yeah, I think. Yeah, and actually we are collaborate with our SOC partner. Yeah, so not doing by ourselves. So our SOC partner locate in outside of Indonesia. Yeah, so we collaborate with. Oh yeah, for your information, now we are moving to our third SOC partner. Yeah, so for the first SOC, actually we are collaborate with our SOC partner. Their location in Japan, the second in Thailand, and now actually we are moving to the SOC. Yeah, that actually their location in the North America. Yeah, so from my opinion, why we need what I call as a reliable SOC, because everyone now that if you are talking as security, so many possibility of attack, so we must ready and to prevent all the security attack from the external or internal. I believe that all the enterprise actually they apply many of the security perimeter in their on premise. So to manage so many perimeter, the security perimeter, security device, I'm sure that if we are only depend on our internal resources, it's very what I call very risky, because we are lack of resources, for example. So we need to collaborate with the SOC partner. So in a common SOC, actually we send all our log, the security log from all our security device, we send to this SOC. Then we are waiting from them. They will correlate all the log, and then get back to us to notify us if there were any alert. The issue is when they get back to us and give the alert, the numbers of the alert is too much, too many. Yes. So even though I have an internal security team, but not many. I only have 3 dedicated security team. They need to follow up all the alert. So you can imagine that actually if so many alert come to us and need to follow up one by one by my team, you can imagine how crowded, how suffered them to follow up to identify this is the false alert or this is the right alert. Then they need to take an action. So the SOC that I expect not only to detect and collect, but also can help us to give an action, more proactive, I think. That's from my point of view. So maybe I don't know whether maybe this is not a pure SOC, but maybe more to the managed service, maybe MSSP. But if you know the common SOC right now, the services is like that. So that's from my experience here.
No, I can identify absolutely. I mean, going through all those logs and really getting actionable intelligence is a challenge that is very, very significant in most organizations. David, maybe you can comment on what you see in other organizations, when they struggle with alert fatigue, as we call it, right? And what do they do about that?
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I think you're absolutely right. As I was hearing Pak Damadi, I think the challenge resonates with a lot of organizations we speak with around ASEAN. And I think what Pak Damadi has mentioned, that really was the outcome of I guess, quote unquote, legacy SOCs where all they do is just alert ingestion, and then they just spit back out the results out of that. And there's no real thinking about what the real outcome is. So in a lot of our conversations with CISOs, with organizations, the thinking around the SOC today is, what's the outcome? And if I draw an experience on what Palo Alto Networks, our SOC is thinking about, is really around two major parts of the outcome. Really, one is lowering our mean time to detect, and as well as lowering our mean time to response. All right. So the ability to detect and prevent threats very early on in the life cycle, shifting left, so to speak, or left of the bank before an attack actually happens. So that outcome or that metric, right? How do we actually now work towards lowering mean time to detect and mean time to response? I think that is resonating very well with a lot of CISOs, with a lot of organizations, and they are now thinking about what are the strategies towards that outcome, right, of lowering mean time to detect, lowering mean time to response, and of course making the SOC more efficient, which we will talk about a lot more in this segment.
Thank you so much, David, for that insight. And turning over to Kun Titirat, right? There are definitely steps that we can take to improve SOC efficiencies. Can you tell us a little bit about what True Corporation did in that area?
So actually, the pain point that Pak Damadi mentioned is common among the SOC clients, right? So to enhance our SOC, we are using machine learning to help to understand the behavior of the normal user or normal behavior of the system. And in order to differentiate what is the suspicious activities, for example, like one user regularly log in at 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., but one day she logged in at 3 a.m. in the morning. That could be trigger the alert for suspicious activity. And with embedded machine learning technology in our SOC technology, we can filter out noises and only provide the significant alert or recommendation back to the clients. That's what we focus on, machine learning. The second thing is that, as you know, that cybersecurity detection, right? We should detect the incident as soon as possible. And another important thing is that we should be able to respond to the incident in a timely manner. So we are using the automation to help in this role. So we're using automation. So for example, after we detect the suspicious login of the particular user, we can automatically disable that user account from the VPN login. If we see the suspicious activity calling out to the malicious IP address, we can send the command from our security automation to the firewall to block the access to the malicious IP address. Or for example, if we found the malicious file is installed on many servers or clients, we can automatically remove the malicious file on the server and client. This is the utmost important in cybersecurity incident response. It can help us to stop the breach or prevent the reputational damage or data leakage. The bad consequences would not happen if we can stop the incident right away. So this is the two critical things, machine learning and automation, that we are focusing on. The other two things that we are also implementing is also integrating the vulnerability management alerts to our CM system. So with that, we when we have the critical vulnerability, right, and we correlate the critical vulnerability with the SOC alert. So we know that, for example, if someone try to penetrate with this critical vulnerability, so we know what are the relevant server that might be vulnerable to that specific vulnerabilities. The last thing is that we are have the team to develop and research on the newly found threat actor or the newly found vulnerability. For example, if there are zero-day attack or the new vulnerabilities on the Log4Shell or Spring4Shell. So we have the team to understand the characteristic of the vulnerabilities, and from that we develop the use case from the characteristics. So when we find out from the log sources that we have, what are the list of system or application that vulnerable to the newly found vulnerability or Log4Shell or Spring4Shell. So with that, we can provide to the IT team or BU in order to close the vulnerability in a timely manner. Yes, so that is what we are working on.
Wow, that, and you know, I would tell you that just again, you know, I've been a CISO of many organizations in the US and spent a lot of time. What you've achieved is something that a lot of us strive to get to, and congratulations on getting so far along. And I definitely agree with you that, you know, the way that how sophisticated attackers are, the supply chain attacks, you know, we don't have the luxury of preventing them from ever coming in. So detecting them early in that attack cycle is really the difference between, you know, you're dealing with a breach situation, you're dealing with a ransomware situation, and you're dealing with, you know, an initial detection of an infected endpoint and then stopping them early. And automation and orchestration is a huge part of that. Maybe, you know, David, can you talk a little bit about what we at Palo Alto Networks do? You know, we had a journey as well in terms of automating our SOC, much like Kun Thitirat's organization. What is it that we focused on, and what do we do well there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of what Kun Thitirat has mentioned resonates very well, again, with our experiences in terms of implementing our journey with regards to transforming our SOC to a next generation SOC. A lot of the capabilities Kun Thitirat has mentioned with regards to machine learning and automation. Now, I'll talk a little bit about machine learning. For us to really, and particularly to our SOC, for us to really think about machine learning, we needed to have a very strong data analytics platform, right? And the ability to ingest the data in, not just collecting data for the sake of collecting it into a traditional SIEM, which we did in the past, but we've since moved away from a traditional SIEM onto our XDR platform or our data analytics platform, where we then apply analytics. Now, all the things that Kun Thitirat has spoken about, you know, user behavior analytics, you know, be able to figure out and baseline what a normal user activity is very important. We now have new capabilities where we can now cross-correlate across global analytics. You know, as a lot of our customers are using our technologies, we have the ability to cross-correlate across the data lakes, across different customers as well. And we have this global analytics platform, and that particularly, you know, comes in with the ability to detect supply chain attacks, how a particular software is functioning or behaving abnormally in one customer, and then we can cross-correlate that across a different customer set. So that journey for us was important as we moved away from very traditional SOC technology onto a data analytics platform. Machine learning then came into play very well. The other part around, I think for us, again, the big outcome was minimizing and reducing that mean time to detect, right? And that meant a lot of the prevention, best practice prevention methodologies. We needed to make sure that our next-gen firewall capabilities, our cloud protection capabilities were all configured very securely up to industry standards, right? So that we are actually able to detect and prevent the attacks very early on in the attacks, right? Hence reducing that mean time to detect. And the other part that I got very loudly from Kun Thitirat was around automation. So that ties in very closely with the outcome I've talked about for the SOC was very important, was mean time to response. We've gone down to a matter of seconds for high priority incidents, the ability to respond to those attacks very quickly and very effectively for the SOC itself.
No, and I think one thing that is also, you know, not that haven't been covered here by the both of you is that a lot of the security analysts have a hard time dealing with very, very mundane activity. And if we can take that orchestration and automation, you know, to make that mundane activity be more user, like to help them solve that easier, then they can focus on more complex activity like threat hunting and really help you cover your bases from a risk perspective. But doing orchestration and automation is not easy because most of us have the security tool sprawl problem, right? There is a survey out there that says that an average company in the US and the UK have about 72 security tools that they are working on to detect threats, etc. So this question is probably for both of you, Pak Damadi and Kun Titirat. The tool sprawl, right? What are your thoughts on the number of tools that a SOC needs to meet the modern cybersecurity challenges, threats, and opportunities? Let's start with Pak Damadi.
Yeah, you're very true. Yeah. Actually, we are also like that. Yeah. So if you are talking about the security in on-premise, we have so many security devices, yeah, security perimeter that we install at endpoint, yeah, security at the network level, security for email gateway, web gateway, and also security from the applications point of view, application gateway, for example. Yeah. So actually, we have so many tools, too many security tools. Now, each tool, actually, they provide their own visibility. Yeah? So they provide their own dashboard. Yeah? So you can imagine that actually with limited resources of my security team, they need to monitor its security dashboard, yeah, from the its tools. Yeah? So that's I think it's a very suffer. Yeah? So for the SOC, of course, it's I think it's mandatory for them to have tools also. I'm sure that they have also so many tools, yeah, to correlate all the log, and then they can come out with the result, yeah, the alert, the security alert, yeah, before they come to the notification to us, yeah. So from my point of view, what I need is actually one comprehensive tools, yeah. I ever spoke with not only one, I think several of the security provider, the principal, yeah. Can I have one big comprehensive visualizations, only one dashboard? I mentioned like that, yeah. So from my desk, for example, as a CIO, several times, not several times, I think it's a mandatory if everyone asks to me, yeah, how secure actually you, yeah, your environment, yeah, how secure, how you can answer that, yeah, if you don't have any visibility, yeah. So I very like to have a dashboard, the big dashboard, yeah, that I can show comprehensive dashboard, yeah, the situation on my on-premise and also on cloud, yeah, that can describe how secure we are. So I can see from this, for example, from what network point of view, from the endpoint point of view, from the application point of view. Yes, there are so many attacks. Yeah, there is a list of attack, and the attacks divided into the critical, non-critical, and how many of them that already follow up by my team. Yeah, and the situation now. So the comprehensive tools, I think, is very important. Yeah, for the SOC also. Yeah, I remember that the first time when I define with what partner that actually I will work to. Yeah, that's the one of the mandatory question that I asked to them. Yeah, do you have a tools? Do you have a complete tools and comprehensive tools? Yeah, that can show me, yeah, how secure we are. Yeah, that's from my point of view. Yeah, so for the SOC, I think it's mandatory to have tools, but like you mentioned, yeah, automations, orchestration is very important. Yeah, otherwise the SOC also will suffer like us. Yeah, but I believe not like that. Yeah.
No, it's definitely a work in progress. And let's turn our attention to Kun Titirat. How are you guys dealing with your tool sprawl issue, and and how do you get all that automation and orchestration from all these disparate tools, or have you addressed that problem?
Okay, so the tool sprawl is the problem for most organizations. The fact that now it's overlapping in the tools capabilities. One tool might be expert in a specific area, but they can also provide some other function, but might not be at the expert level, right? So what we done is we choose the best of breed technology. So we have to understand our requirement. So what are we looking for? Let's say if we have to build a security operation center, the objective is to stop and prevent the cyber attack, right? So when we have to choose the endpoint detection and response, we need to choose the tools that help us to stop the breach before it have the negative consequences to the organization, right? So that's the objective of the goal. So what we do is we perform like a red team exercise or penetration testing, try to penetrate and see whether the tools has the capability to prevent the attack, right? But then for some organization, if they look at all the features and they try to compare like the function and feature of endpoint detection and response with the traditional antivirus, there might be some function and features like device control, USB blocking that might not be available on the endpoint detection and response, right? So my point is that as the clients, they have to understand the objective of each tools clearly so that they be able to select the tools that address their requirements. So to my view, for example, if we have to choose the endpoint detection and response, it should be the tools that help us prevent most of the attack or be able to inform us if in case of the attack, they should be able to detect early and be able to inform us to perform some action to stop the breach and have some capability, for example, have a function for us to remote access, remove malware, or we can have the API command. For example, if we see the malware, we should have the SDK for us to be able to have a script to run so that we identify whether are there any malicious file in any of the clients in our organization, and if there are, then we can remove them right away. So they need to provide the automated function for us. For the security orchestration automated response, right? Objective is to be able, it's like a core part of the security infrastructure. So the objective needs to be that they should have the many API integration with various vendors, and this will support us to provide security automation. So we can send the command to VPN, we can send the command to firewall, we can send the command to any of the security devices. So by using automation, right, as we mentioned, it can help to reduce the work of SOC analyst tier 1, maybe by 95%, and they can focus on more important, like maybe focus on the threat actor, and it can help to increase the productivity by 300%.
No, and we've seen it at Palo Alto Networks. I know that when I was talking to our Palo Alto Networks CISO, he was telling us about the journey when they started implementing orchestration. You know, they were able to get about 600 hours worth of savings, but over a course of 6 to 8 months, once they saw more opportunities for orchestration, they were able to get about a monthly savings of about 2,400 hours. Right, and that's significant in terms of the number of hours that would have been sunk into doing a lot of mundane activity. And since we're talking about these hours, right, the industry is saying that there's a talent shortage, especially in the cybersecurity area. You know, Kun Titira, you were talking about automation orchestration. Can you tell us a little bit about, you know, has this talent shortage been impacting your SOC, and how do you manage to keep them, you know, to keep these talent in your organization? Is orchestration helping with that at all?
Yes, it is. So basically, security talent shortage is the main issue in the industry now. Everybody are facing the same problem. And what we do, we have to understand the pain point of each staff, right? So let's say in terms of SOC analysts, so we have the weekly meeting and ask them, what can we do better to help you have the better life in being the SOC analyst? And they may say, oh, maybe we can automate this case. We see kind of the same alert happen every night at 2 a.m. the same time, at the same alert, we suspect that this might be the activity of the script or maybe the administrator itself. So with that, we confirm the activity with the client, and if it is the IT admin of the client perform itself, then we whitelist it. For some tasks, for example, if we get the alert and we have to check the information with from the firewall log, or we have to confirm the activities, we can automate the tasks. We don't have to ask the SOC analyst tier 1 to perform the task. We can write the automate playbook and ask the playbook to retrieve the relevant information for the SOC analyst. And SOC analyst just use the information to analyze the data provided by the security orchestration and confirm, oh, this is the attack, and click the button. And right away, the recommendation will be shared to the clients. So security automation and orchestration is come in help to make the staff more satisfying with their job. So it will help them make like, oh, they are not working like a mandate activity, right? They need to be talent, and we can upskill them. Being SOC analysts, we can upskill them to be the expert in what they want. We have the individual development plan. We have true track like a manager and the expert. If they want to be technical expert, then we skill them, we train, we have all the job training. So they feel like, oh, working with us, they are smarter, right? And we have to engage them like weekly meeting, try to understand their pain point, what do they need in order to make them happy in their job, right? And lastly, we like have a coach, like a supervisor, need to closely talk to them and understand their career goal and try to support them to meet their career goals. And that's what we do in order to retain the staff. Actually, by choosing the best technology also help the staff because they can learn about the new state-of-art technology. So that could help in retain them as well. And because we see that there's a talent shortage in the market, so we provide the managed security services to the client. So in case they don't have the staff to operate the tool because they need the knowledge for cybersecurity specific for each tool, so they can outsource the security operation tasks to True Digital Cybersecurity to be considered as the outsourced cybersecurity team for them. Yeah, so that's what we done to the market.
No, and I'm sure that's a huge lift, and I'm sure it's greatly appreciated as well. Switching gears a little bit to a much bigger strategy, right? You know, in terms of the SOC, Zero Trust has been a mandate and a directive that's been talked about a lot in the cybersecurity industry, and largely because Zero Trust is kind of the concept that fits more with how much we've digitalized our environment, as well as the trends in the attack vectors and how they've changed, how complex they are. Just talking to Pak Damadi, right? Is Zero Trust an important part of your strategy, as you redefine your SOC?
Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, so if we are talking about the Zero Trust, that's become a common words in the IT security. That's become a magic word. That's the basic foundation if you are talking about the security. In all security, Zero Trust. Never trust anyone and anything. So that's should become our first mindset. Especially for the security team. All the security analysts, engineer, that should become their first mindset. So if we are talking the Zero Trust, we are talking about the access. And after they get the access, what they can do. So who can access what? So I think if we are talking who can access your network, there are internal and also the external party. So the internal access is very important also because sometimes the attack is come from the insiders, I think. So we need to define who can access what. Least privilege, I think, is must apply, and also the segregation of duty. The power user, super power user is what, from my point of view, is you should eliminate that. So there is no super power. user. So least privilege is very important. Who can access what? Yeah. And if we are talking, that's for the internal. For the external, I think is we need to more beware, yeah, aware about who can access to our internal network. Yeah. For example, for the SOC, like I mentioned, that we are actually have sub partner. Yeah. Even though we send our log, yeah, we open all our security device can send the log to the sub partner, but we not allow the sub partner, yeah, even though we know that then they who actually the partner, who is actually the engineer, yeah. So but we are not allow them to access directly to our internal network. So that's a kind of implementation, how we implement zero trust. Yeah. So if they need to access, they need to talk with our security engineer. Yeah. So more action actually taken by our internal security engineer, especially that need changing in our environment. Yeah. So less privilege and segregation of duty. So if we are talking about the access, the next is if we are talking about the network. Yeah. What kind of area that they can access? Yeah, segmentation is very important. Yeah, we can limit actually the network segment that can be accessed by one person. Yeah, somebody. By the user. Yeah. So the less segment that I can access, that's I think is more good. Yeah, for us, yeah, in the context of the security. So the segmentation in the network segmentation is also important. After that, what next? After we allow the authorized person, they can go into our network. The next, yeah, of course, the validation, yeah, what actually they do in our network, yeah. So SOC help us to do a validation, yeah, every time, yeah. Whether all the eligible user, the authorized user, yeah, what actually they do in our network, yeah. Is there any the suspect that they do in our network? So that the SOC, I think, is become one of the responsibility to can correlate or the alert, yeah, then notify us quickly what happened in our environment. So I think that's Ian.
No, great answers. And you know, when I think about zero trust in the way that you've said it, right? You know, there's definitely all these preventative things that we have to do. And again, back to what Kun Titirat was talking about earlier, right? We want to make it very hard for attackers to move within our network because we're trying to catch them early in the attack life cycle, right? So when we create micro segmentation, when we do least privilege, when we do segregation of duties, these things cause the attacker to work much harder inside our environment. And when they work much harder, they make a lot more noise. And that's where the detection part of zero trust comes in, right? We need to be continually validating. We can't adopt this whole allow and ignore model anymore, where, you know, we allow a user, once we authenticate it, to come in, you know, and then they can do whatever they want behind our network. That doesn't fly anymore in a zero trust perspective. You know, either David or Kunti Tirat, do you guys want to add to, you know, this zero trust conversation?
I can give that perspective around zero trust, particularly around where the SOC comes in. If you look at zero trust, I think what Pak Damadi has mentioned is very right. We need to be able to never trust and always verifying all that digital interactions, you know, be it the user accessing it, the process that's running on your endpoint, whether the endpoint process is a malware and we are always verifying what the process is running, or be it a workload that you're trying to spin up on a cloud and verifying and never trusting that workload, right? And always verifying that workload, whether it's running a secure configuration with the correct security benchmark, right? So that's zero trust. Now, where the SOC, I feel, comes in, and this is where we are also talking to a lot of our customers and clients around zero trust, is that where the SOC comes in is always validating that threat intelligence that we're embedding down onto the control point, right? So the control point on the endpoint, and Pak Damadi has mentioned network segmentation, the user accessing it, whether that's all correct, that is all, you know, potentially done at a threat intelligence level, at the SOC level. Kuntitira has mentioned, threat intel is very important. The ability to look at vulnerability, Log4j, Spring4Shell, all that needs to be validated. And once validated, we need to push that validation down onto the control point, the zero trust control point, to be able to never trust, always verifying those digital interactions. So that's really, that's important part of where the SOC's value is with regards to zero trust.
Yeah, I just add a little bit to that, right? The new role of the SOC in a zero trust environment is that you have all these security tools out there making trust decisions for your organization. Your firewall is letting traffic in, your access gateway is letting people in, etc. The SOC's job, much like what Kuntitira was saying earlier, is to baseline what is normal, and then when abnormal things happen in your environment, they've got to validate that that trust decision is still correct, right? So you don't just implicitly trust anymore, you continually validate within your environment. A lot of rich conversations around, what we're doing today. Kuntitira, can you talk a little bit about, how do we future-proof the SOC for tomorrow?
Yes, so the question may be, how can we ensure that we are secure or we be able to detect, right? And I think to be able to test it, we can perform the attack simulation. So we can hire someone to actually penetrate the system that our SOC is monitoring and see whether our SOC team is able to detect and also stop the penetrate activity before the negative consequences happen. So just a simulation and get everybody ready. So everybody knows about it except for the SOC team. Attack simulation is important. And another thing would be the process controls. So for SOC, we have to ensure that we have on board all the logs, or maybe starting from what are the log source that we need for the use case, and whether we have onboarded all those log source. And as part of the internal SOC operation, we have to ensure that log source have completely onboarded. We are not missing any critical system, right? Because when we're missing the system, we don't have the visibility if the malicious activity is occurring on that specific system. And from that, we need to ensure that the use case team who onboard the log source and correlate the log source from different device complete the use case development for all the log sources. And after use case development complete, we need to ensure that the SOC analyst team understand the use case from all the log sources. So the process control is to make sure, audit, and make sure that the end-to-end process from log onboarding and the final deliverable as the SOC alert are completely for all of the activity and all the log source that are supposed to be as part of the scope. And we should be able to provide a recommendation back to the client, what are the missing log source, or for example, if one day one of the log source is missing, we should know it right away and be able to inform the client that this log source is missing, so that we have the detection all the time. And if we missing the log source, that means we don't have the visibility at that time. So make sure that our detection capability is always on. Yes, that's the plan to future-proof the SOC.
No, and I what you're saying there, I think is more substantial in that, we're not just deploying tools and we're not just deploying processes. You're putting in place, ways to validate that your tools and your processes are actually doing what it's supposed to do, right? By having the red team and the purple team exercise to go in and see if your SOC is actually catching things that they should catch. If there's a lateral movement in the cloud, or if there's a lateral movement within your network, whether all your controls are actually working as they're supposed to be. That validation is very key, and it substantiates your strategy that you guys are doing the right thing. Just a great conversation today by our panelists. Thank you so very much for attending this event and for sharing your experience. I think collectively here between the four of us, we have over 100 years of cybersecurity experience that we're sharing with our audience. And I hope that you found it useful. Just a quick recap, right? Today's environment and today's attackers are different. And we cannot protect our environment with the legacy tools and with the legacy ways, because both the environments and the attackers have evolved. So we need to evolve our security operations to meet the challenges of tomorrow. Automation and orchestration is key, right? Because it helps not only drive down, that mundane activity, but it helps our analysts to be able to focus on value-added threat hunting activity. It keeps them, it gives us the ability to retain them better within our organization by giving them more meaningful jobs. This whole tool sprawl issue is a major issue, and definitely there's a huge challenge to look at rationalizing all your application security tools and maybe finding platforms that work much better together so that you have a cohesive security defense in depth protection. And then lastly, applying a zero trust strategy, like what Pak Damadi was saying, across your whole strategy is key. Really exercising a breach mindset, like architect your environment in a way that you anticipate a breach in your environment. Secondly, continually validate, right? Don't just have an allow and ignore model anymore. Make your prevention capabilities difficult so that the hackers make a lot of noise, so that your detection capabilities are able to baseline what's normal and pick up what's anomalous, so you quickly react to it, like what Kun Titira was saying, early in the attack lifecycle, so that it doesn't become a major problem for your company. And so the zero trust strategy is definitely fundamental to how we secure for tomorrow. So I thank you, all of you, for attending this conference. And on behalf of my esteemed panelists, I wish you all well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.